Normally, starting an exchange is probably your worst idea because exchanges only work if a lot of people trade on your exchange. So it doesn't really matter that you're better technologically speaking, even though we do have a better technology.
Hey, now we want to do it ourselves. Why would we pay someone else to do it if we can get our own?
And I think it's good. I think if you look at the old-fashioned utilities, they were very good in large-scale stuff. But in any transition, we need much smaller, much specific solutions. And this will not come from the large companies. It will come from startups. And this is what makes the market evolve.
There's just a lot of service provider really zooming into this super small niche of a specific service, a specific product, offering it in a specific market or at a specific granularity. It's all about really niching in, zooming in, and finding one specific service that there will be someone who needs it.
I think the need for more financial product lies more in companies that use energy and they would like to trade and they would like to cap their risk. Right? So they know how much risk they can take, are willing to pay a premium to hedge that. So that will probably not be for prop traders, but if you're a large industry, I think that those are interesting products for that.
Today we have with us Michiel Lensink, CEO of Etpa. Please, can you tell us a bit who you are? Who's Etpa? What do you do?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Yeah, Etpa is one of the spot markets. We started last year in the Netherlands with intraday, expanded to Germany this year, and next year we'll be also expanding to day ahead, IDAS, and also adding Belgium and Austria. So busy bees. Etpa is very strong in adding new participants, especially new entrants in this market. Our system, and we might get a chance to talk more about it. We have very low barriers to entry. You can just start in onboarding in a week. I have a background in physics. I've been doing a number of companies in the last 20 years and started as CEO of Etpa about 18 months ago.
Thank you for the introduction, Michiel. And can you tell us what brought you to Etpa? What brought you to the energy industry?
Yeah, I have a mixed background in finance industry and in the energy industry. And what I find extremely interesting of this market is how it is at this epicenter of the changing energy market. I think what we see right now in terms of volatility, the need for more flexibility, all the new innovations in the market. As an exchange, you're an enabler for all these innovations, and I just find it a fascinating place to be.
I think many of us in this industry would agree with that, of course. I mean, once you're in energy, you don't get out. What you mentioned with trends, changes, of course, renewable penetration, is that also the reason why Etpa started on the intraday markets?
Of the two markets, intraday and day ahead, intraday is obviously by far the most difficult one as an exchange, right? It's a near real time, and we are a tech company. I mean, in essence, we are a tech company. We have 35 developers, and we think we are very good at to address all the new players that are much more geared to our algo trading, and this is something that's really compelling for us. Day ahead, obviously, is still the biggest market. But from a technology perspective, it's a bit boring. And so we like to be at the forefront of it. And we had, as Etpa, built in the past 𝐜𝐴Z𝐭𝐞, which is the Dutch congestion platform. So we already had the technology in-house. So we started with intraday, which is the most exciting one. As I said, we will be adding day ahead next year. We just got the permit from the National Regulatory Agency, which is needed, obviously, to a lot of people trade both in day ahead and intraday. But our tech heart really lies in intraday.
Can you walk us through how does one start a journey to become established exchange? I mean, you're competing with big parties who are in the industry for a long time. You need quite a lot of capital, resources, knowledge, and expertise. So how can you just start and say, let's do this, let's build a new exchange and let's compete with the existing framework?
Yeah, the beauty is it's not so easy.
It is not.
So Etpa started about 7-8 years ago. They had some, it was before I joined, they had some niche products. And at some point they were acquired by Tenet. And Tenet is the Dutch TSO. Also in Germany is one of the four. And the reason that Tenet acquired Etpa is because of the technology we had. And when we were part of Tenet, we built two power exchanges for them. 𝐜𝐴X, which is for flexibility and congestion, and an ex-post market. So we were very much in the system in the beginning. So we had the knowledge, we had expertise, we had the people. And when about 2 years ago, the company was spun out of Tenet, and there were two investors came in. So we already had that expertise in-house and also the credibility, because I think to start a power exchange, like you said, it's a quite complex system. You need a lot of expertise. But because we had already done it as part of Tenet, we were able to get a license, because to become an exchange, you need a license. You have to become a NEMO. And I think we were at the right time, at the right place, and became the first independent NEMO to become member of SIDC, of the single intraday.
That is a great achievement, and that's of course why we wanted to have you today on Time2Talk as well. So you had basically the benefits from coming from within the market. You were able to grow the whole exchange from inside the TSO basically towards now a commercial party competing with other commercial parties.
Correct. And it is a very political environment as well. So you need to understand that game. I mean, the beauty is that normally starting an exchange is probably your worst idea, because exchanges only work if a lot of people trade on your exchange. So it doesn't really matter that you're better technologically speaking, even though we do have a better technology. The beauty of the system that the European Union has created is that by becoming a NEMO, we share the order book with the other power exchanges. So the liquidity on our order book is identical as the liquidity on EPEX and Nord Pool, for instance. And that gives us really an opportunity to compete on all the other stuff that is important to people. But if you had a better exchange, and we have a wallet system, so the barriers to entry are much lower, and we have very good APIs. But all that would not lead to success if we were not part of the SIDC sharing the order book with the other NEMOs. So
basically the European framework, the SIDC or the SDAC for the day-ahead market, is basically the enabler, or has been the enabler for Etpa to become who you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we offer the same product as our competitor, but then better and cheaper. So it's especially for new players, it makes a lot of sense to become member at our exchange. And so it's a nice market niche.
And you said that you have a low entry barrier to join Etpa, and you have basically had the two exchange parts, one the intraday trading and one the flexibility on the 𝐜𝐴X.
Mm-hmm.
The 𝐜𝐴X are of course known within the market, but it's not as much as what we see, not as much of a thing as just speculation on day ahead and intraday. How do you see that? Do you see a lot of interest in the 𝐜𝐴X? Is it something that is a lot of push internally from Etpa to become something bigger? Is it something the whole society, as the energy society needs, or is it just a nice to have?
Yeah, it's a good question. You're right that the flexibility market is very early in its matureness. But if you look at the volatility prices in the intraday and day ahead, the only conclusion you can draw is that we need more flexibility. The problem with the flexibility exchange is a bit of a chicken and egg thing, right? So as long as there's very little flexibility in the exchange, the TSOs and DSOs will not really use it. And as long as they not use it, there won't be a lot of trades there. But if you open up the newspaper, flexibility is the number one problem there. So congestion is a much bigger problem from a societal point of view than the prices of energy per se. So in the Netherlands, you see that it sometimes is a waiting list of 5 to 6 years for industry to get enough power for their electrification.
Yeah.
That,
for your grid connection, basically, right?
Yeah, or to increase your grid connection. Yeah. So from a societal point of view, it is a much more pressing problem. But you're right, that's not where all the action is happening at the moment, from a trading point of view.
Would you say that it's more important to change something on the consumption side rather than developing, let's say, flex products like the go-backs?
Yeah, so I think in general, electrification will only get bigger, right? So if you look at, for instance, heating, we're all moving away from gas to electrification in industry as well. So the need for electrification will only increase. And there are two options there. One, you add flexibility to your consumption so that you can use the same grid in different moments in time, because the overload of the grid is not constant. It's only at certain times of day or some certain peak times. Or we build a larger grid, and both need to be done. I think in the past, consumption was always seen as something that, I can have consumption whenever I want. But now the production is very, very correlated with weather. Now, we've seen the last month where there was little sun and little wind, how much influence that has on the power in Europe. I think we need to be more flexible as well. So there's not one solution. We need to do it all. When we look at expanding the grid, it will take 10 to 20 years to expand it to a size that it's necessary for the electrification. So we cannot wait for that.
We need smart solutions right now.
Absolutely. And we see a lot happening there. And I think the beauty of it is that technologically it's already possible. It's just a mindset. How do we actually consume? How do we make sure that consumption and demand and supply are much more taken into equilibrium by having flexibility in the grid? What we see and what we find interesting is that if you look back, let's say 5 to 10 years, and if you look at power exchanges, the actors in power exchanges were mostly large utilities or large prop traders. If you look at the number of new companies that they're having very bespoke products for specific areas, I mean, there's so much going on. 5 years ago, having algorithms was something very, very unique. Now, with the rise of AI, there's much more companies offering algo trading. So there's a lot going on, and I think that's very exciting.
And that's also the trend we see, obviously. Many market participants come to us, or future market participants who say, hey, now we want to do it ourselves. Why would we pay someone else to do it if we can get our own direct access? And recently, we met you there as well. We were in one of the events in Holland from Previse, where I had a short talk about the rise of the spot trader, where we indeed saw this trend, not only in the Netherlands with Tenet, but in many other markets as well, that the sudden increase of BRP registrations towards the TSOs is just going at a much higher pace than, let's say, the last 10, 15 years, where the increase really started in the last 3 to 4 years. So yes, we basically see the same trend.
And I think it's good. I think if you look at the old-fashioned utilities, they were very good in large-scale stuff. But in the energy transition, we need much more, much smaller, much more specific solutions. And this will not come from the large companies. It will come from startups, prop traders that specialize in specific niches. And this is what makes the market evolve.
And this is also what you see right now, right? I think that's what you meant as well with the revolution or the evolution, that there's just a lot of service provider really zooming into this super small niche of a specific service, a specific product, offering it in a specific market or the specific granularity. It's all about really niching in, zooming in, and finding one specific service that when there will be someone who needs it. And it seems that all these companies are also growing at quite a high pace. You don't hear a lot of failure, you hear a lot of success. Is that also what you see with your clients?
What we see in energy markets, what we've probably seen in aviation in the 90s, right? You had these huge companies, and then 𝐜𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐬 came along with a very lean and mean business model. And that's the same for these smaller companies. So let's say there are 5 smart kids with algorithms, and they don't have the overhead that a Vattenfall has, so they can offer their service at a much more efficient way, and that makes it interesting for the client as well.
What could be one of Etpa's next markets? So you mentioned already you're looking at Austria, France, and Belgium, but are you also looking further ahead already, or are we then speculating too far out ahead in time?
So first of all, we want to be at parity with EPEX and Nord Pool in terms of products and geographies. So that's what we are doing right now. We are running very hard to have the same offering as they do, and that's what we're working hard to do so. What I see in the future is that there's a lot of innovation, financial innovation that's needed in this market as well. If smaller companies are starting to trade, they will need products to hedge their risks, which is a combination of spot market plus a financial product. There will probably, if you look at all the batteries coming up, we can also imagine that at some point we'll need a special financial product for those markets. And then I think a lot of innovation is yet to come.
You had an interesting point, Michiel. You mentioned where you have your physical positions on these intraday markets. At the same time, parties might want to do the hedging. Of course, in the market right now, you have just physical is your EPEX or Nord Pool. For your financial, you easily go to EX to do your hedging of your day ahead of your base load. But what about financial hedging of intraday products? It's, of course, a physical market. Do you think there's a need for a financial product within the intraday markets? And if so, do you as Etpa have a way to develop it, promote it, offer it to the market, or are you more constrained by your obligations as a NEMO in general? And how do you tackle this on a larger international level?
Yes, we think there is a need for hedging in intraday as well. I think the market is not mature enough right now, but this is something. So what you probably will need is if smaller companies go and trade themselves, they are willing to take a risk up to a certain level, and there's an opportunity for hedges there as well. And I think as this market matures, there will be people willing to offer that for a specific price, obviously. So that's definitely something we see happening, but it will probably take a few years.
We see right now that a lot of new parties, and them being small, just energy startups, a few quant AI guys, or even bigger hedge funds, they are not afraid of entering these physical markets. They are going for the BRP registration and the whole scheduling setup and all these kind of things. Do you think that there's even a need then to have a financial product on, for example, the intraday markets, because parties are already taking this step? Or do you think that having a financial product would really benefit the market participants to speculate, to make money, but also benefit society as such, lowering the threshold, the barrier to enter even more?
Yeah, so for prop traders, it's something different, right? So they live out of speculation. That's how they make money. But I think the need for more financial product lie more in companies that use energy and they would like to trade and they would like to cap their risk, right? So they know how much risk they can take and are willing to pay a premium to hedge that. So that will probably not be for prop traders, but if you're a large industry, I think that those are interesting products for them.
Yeah, so those who have assets, basically, who have production or consumption and need more flex around it, or need to hedge their flex.
And for them, it has a real value. So I agree with you that for prop traders, it doesn't make sense, but that's a different animal.
And when you look at your own client base within Etpa, how much historically and how much recently has it been towards more assets, utilities, and how much more towards the speculator?
So we have always had one product, which is our exposed product, where you can exchange imbalance positions the day after when it's if it's a very Dutch niche product. So we had mostly a lot of prop traders in the past. For our intraday, we see more and more asset owners and utilities as clients. The large prop traders are also quite a few of them have our intraday product, but they mostly also have EPEX or Nord Pool account. For them, the cost of having an extra exchange is not so high, so it's a backup. But if you look at the companies that are most actively trading at Etpa right now, a lot of them are asset owners. I think that's something that we are really strong at. What we're also starting to see is prop traders that want our exchange because we have no cap on volumes and we are very fast. So for them, it's interesting to trade. So it's a mix. We are adding quite a substantial number of participants we have added this year. So the growth has been very, very nice for us.
And you mentioned as well, of course, your exposed product. Then we're looking specifically at regeltoestand 2. I don't know the precise translation, but at least dual pricing within the imbalance market.
Correct. Yeah, so in the Netherlands, you can end up and downwards imbalance in the same quarter, and in that case, you lose money either way, whether you're long or short. And until 10 o'clock the next day, you can exchange the imbalance position with someone that has imbalance on the other side, and reduce your imbalance costs.
And that is, of course, a great opportunity for the market participants on Etpa. But when we look now at this dual pricing, in the moment it occurs, that is harmful for those who don't have access towards the exposed market that you offer. But how has the trend been recently in this market on the dual pricing? How often did it occur? And what is the risk that it brings towards society or the energy transition, basically?
So the dual pricing is a very efficient mechanism where in principle the TSO cannot make money on imbalance. So basically it's a way for them to give back the extra cost or extra revenue they have incurred. And it works brilliantly.
Tenet in general is relatively free and liberal in the whole speculation on the imbalance. And other parties, let's say like an Amprion in Germany, are a lot more strict. Really against speculators. If EPEX is your only counterparty, then what are you doing there? That's sometimes what they think. Do you think then that the free market as such as it was available up till last week in Holland within Tenet was maybe a bit too free, and that there's too many traders there trying to make money for themselves, harming society?
I mean, if you look at the numbers, and balancing costs in the Netherlands are much lower than in Germany. And Dutch TSOs have a very market-based approach where they say, hey, listen, we as Tenet, we don't know better than the market. And what you see is, mentioned before, you have a lot of new players that are very specified in a certain niche, and they make money by trading in that niche. So if you have a lot of players playing this game well, and they can only make money if they play it well, then in principle you help balancing the grid, and that is true. If you look at the imbalance cost of Tenet in the Netherlands, it's much lower than in Germany. So de facto, this is helping society. When it goes wrong the dual pricing is a very niche problem within that problem. You need to take action, and that's why I'm saying I'm completely in favor of doing so. But in general, I think a market-based approach is better for society than a government-owned company trying to predict what is best for the market. That history has shown that is never a good idea.
And when we look now at Tenet has taken action basically to take a bit of control again, to get more stability, so to say. What do you think is the next challenge or issue that might need to be addressed? Or looking at Etpa, Tenet, or maybe a slightly larger angle, what is a big problem you foresee?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge that we have is the grid connections, right? So I think in general in Europe we need to invest in both local grid as an interconnector between countries, because expanding your geography really solves a big problem. I think the success of intraday, I think intraday is the biggest success in the energy sector in Europe. It has shown the European project being extremely successful in lowering prices, harmonizing pricing across Europe. I think that is, we can be proud of what we achieved here. I think in general, what we need as a society, we've overshot in terms of renewables. I think the growth of renewables was much, much higher than we anticipated. So I think the next big challenge is storage and flexibility. I mean, that's the next 5 years will all be about storage and flexibility. And whether that's batteries or hydrogen or something else, that's for the market to innovate in. You've probably seen the number of negative prices this year compared to the previous years. This has been a terrible year of sun in Europe. I think next year the probability of even having much higher number of negative prices is realistic if you see the growth of renewables. So we need to change the system and need to make sure there's enough capacity for storage and flexibility.
So the point you are making, basically, the biggest changes we need to address, apart from just developing, of course, smart solutions, AI, all kinds of technology, still comes down to the physics of things. We need a lot of interconnector capacity, both between countries and also within the local grid.
Yeah, and obviously smart solutions, right? So and I think they go hand in hand. And the interesting about this energy transition that we are in is that it also changes. So what is the right solution today is not the right solution tomorrow. So we need a lot of innovation in using the grid better, in better algorithms for trading algorithms are also very important to stabilize, right? So the better you use the exchanges, the less coal-fired or gas-fired utilities you need, because you can balance the grid better. So I think a lot of it is happening right now. I mean, I was at a small event this week. A lot of new startups coming up in the scene, all claiming to have new innovative solutions, and that's what we need. We need this ecosystem of new companies helping to innovate.
Thank you, Michiel. I think we addressed many interesting topics. It is not an easy problem to tackle, but I think I smell optimism here today, and that's good. We are all developing new software, new tools, and all the. Let's not forget about it. The TSOs and all the people working at the TSOs and the regulators also do a lot of amazing work as the whole flow-based market, coupling integrations, SDAC, SIDC to support this. And I think with the whole infrastructure that we have, money coming into the energy market, of course, via both traders, but also flex owners, battery owners, and just investors to invest like in smart solutions like Etpa and other parties. That's what we need. And I think, as you said, we're on an evolution. We are on a really good wave. And let's ride it together, Michiel.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. And it was nice to speak to you.
Thank you, Michiel. Thank you for your time and for your expertise. And I hope to see you again soon.